Welcome back, you guys. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about we're going to do a positivity video part 2. And I'm going to kind of talk about different things and ways on how we can stay positive during this, again, crazy time.
It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day.
So yesterday, my mom and I were talking about this prayer that Pope Francis sent out to the United States as a country. And in the prayer, he wrote a quote. I'm going to read it to you guys, but I want you guys just to listen to it for a second and take a minute. And if you can, try and Google this prayer because it's so meaningful. And I feel like has such importance with what's going on or regarding with what's going on in the world today, or our country more specifically. And that quote is, nothing is gained from violence and so much is lost. Those words could not be truer. And it's so easy to get caught up in the what ifs and the craziness of the country right now. And I know that, and I'm guilty of that. But that's okay. And it's okay to get caught up for like 5 or 10 minutes every once in a while. You have to get your head out of that thought process and turn the news off if you have it on, or get off Facebook or whatever news platform you're using at that moment. You need to get off and just remember that the world is scary, yes, but that doesn't mean that it should stop you from going outdoors every once in a while to go for a walk. Because let me just tell you, walks are so good for your mental sanity. And maybe go plant your plants or go read a book on your porch or your deck. Just go do something for you that's going to make you happy. And there are so many great books out there in the world today. I just finished a great one. It was called Chasing My Cure. Oh my God. If you like reading about medical issues and think this is a good fit for you, I 10 out of 10 recommend it. Because in the end, it was a very happy ending. But I'll get off that because that is very off topic. But that is go do something to take your mind off of the fact of what's going on in our country right now. Because yes, it's scary and yes, it can be terrifying, but don't let it consume you, because right in that very moment, it's not affecting you in the way that it can or could affect you. So just go do something to take your mind off that for a little bit. So that's the first point I want to talk about that quote, because that quote is so important. And Pope Francis, I wish I could meet that man, because he's so inspirational. And I feel like he's such a good and fitting Pope for what is going on in our world right now, and the scariness and the uncertainty of COVID-19 and just things like that. He is so inspirational, and every day I look at his quotes, or not every day, maybe like a couple times a week. I look at his quotes and things that he's put out in the world, and honestly, I think it's amazing that Pope Francis is on Twitter. Like, I don't go on Twitter, but I think it's pretty cool that he's a pope, a Catholic pope, and he is on Twitter. Like, that's so funny. So I think you should, if you get a minute, go check out some quotes from Pope Francis, or if you have a Twitter, go on his Twitter, because he put some really good stuff out into the world that I think needs to be talked about more. So recently I was listening to the radio, or actually, what was I listening to? Was it a live stream? It might have been a live stream. And it was by one of my favorite country artists. His name is Thomas Rhett. And I heard this song, and honestly, it is so fitting for what is going on in our world right now, and even our country. Like, if you like country music, go listen to this song right now, because it is just amazing. And the song's called Be a Light. And in the song, Thomas Rhett talks about, in a world full of hate, be a light. So honestly, those words could not be more fitting right now. And there's a lot of craziness going on in our country, more specifically right now. But that doesn't mean you need to consistently go consume yourself in the news and the scariness of what's going on in the world right now, because chances are it's not really impacting you specifically right then and there. I mean, it might be, there's a good chance it is, but just right then in that very moment when you're getting emotional or you're getting upset because of all that's going on in our country right now, take a step back and just go do something for you, like I was talking about a couple minutes ago. Go listen to your favorite country music artist, like I do, who may or may not be Thomas Rhett. And honestly, his song Be a Light is so uplifting and it's so powerful, and just honestly, I'm gonna be honest, it brings me to tears a lot. Just because it's so, it leaves such an impact on me and on so many other people, because let's be honest, our world right now is kind of scary and there is so much uncertainty. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. And there is so much uncertainty, but that doesn't mean that you need to go consume your time with all this new scary news stories in the world right now, because there are so many ways to be positive and go help your neighbors or call your friends or FaceTime with people you haven't seen in a while. I know next week I'm going to be FaceTiming with my friend Bridget and we're going to do chair dancing, and I freaking love chair dancing, and we're not going to get to do it. I mean, we'll do it at camp this year, but it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be great, but it's going to be a little bit different. So the fact that her and I are going to get to sit down and do that next week is going to be so great. So just, if you have a second, go FaceTime someone you wouldn't normally FaceTime, or do something for you that's going to lift your spirits and make you feel better. So now I'm going to talk about how I leave an impact and how not easy, but how you can make other people smile. And when you do that, it helps so many different people. And like, I'll just be going out for a walk and be walking up the street and be like, hey, how are you? How's your day going? Doing something as simple as that, because when I wave kind of funky, it's kind of funny, but I like it. But I'll just wave to the person and be like, hey, what's up? How's your day going? Like, even with a mask on or from across the street, like, just saying hi to strangers and helping them smile makes me feel so good and just so happy. And like, there's no better feeling in the world than making someone else smile. So that's number one. Number two is I laugh a lot. And it's not always the easiest, but I try to just not make funny jokes, because I'm really bad at jokes. But like, if my sister says something funny or someone in my family says something funny, I think it's funny to laugh. Like, my dad could say the corniest joke and I would still find a way to laugh about it. But laughing is just it's so good for your soul, because crying doesn't really do much, if I'm being honest, but laughing there's some kind of certain natural high that I get from laughing. So, if you can laugh at whatever makes you laugh, then do it, because it is so good to do for yourself. Without being positive, I wouldn't have gotten many of the opportunities that I've had in my life. My life would be very different if I was not so positive and realize that there's so much good to look forward to in the world. If it weren't for my parents raising me the way they did and telling me things like, it always could be worse, or there are so many things to dwell on in the world, but try and focus your energy on the good, then I really would be 10 times not like I am, and I would be struggling a lot more than I am right now. I'm gonna be honest, I'm struggling right now, but that's okay, and I'm sure a lot of people are struggling right now. But at the end of the day, as long as or for me personally, as long as I realize that God's always there to help and do what he can to help you feel better about what's going on in your life and your world, then I feel like that's all you can do, honestly. Like, it's so easy to get caught up in the scary news and the what ifs and the crappy part of David Muir or, I don't know, different news channels, but try and focus your energy. I know at the end of every World News with David Muir episode, he talks about a happy story. And I think I tune in, try to tune in as much as I can and focus and see what that good story is of the night, because most nights are kind of funny and they're interesting stories. So that is that. And without being positive and trying to help other people see the light in the world, then I would not be able to have the opportunities that I've had in my life, such as Camp Footprint or meeting people other people who have mitochondrial diseases And honestly, I was just video chatting with one of my Mito friends this morning. Like, it is so simple to just get on the phone and text someone and be like, hey, let's chat. I miss you. Like, just go do that. Go do something for you, because it's going to make you feel better, and it's probably going to make the other person feel better too. So without being the positive person that I am, I also would not have been able to do the CMTA Facebook Live that I did a couple weeks ago. And honestly, I had so much fun doing that. Like, that lifted me up so much. Like, it was a blast. And that just, without my parents, who I give a lot of credit to, I don't feel like I would not be the person I am today. So shout out to you, Mom and Dad. Thank you so much. But the last thing I want to talk about and touch on is a couple news stories that I've heard that left a positive mark on me. Because like I was talking about, it's so easy to get caught up in the sad news and the scary news and the crazy, not normal news. But you have to try and find the good stories in the different news forecasts or news channels, I mean. So here we go. The first story is, I saw a touching picture on Fox 29 News, and it was a police officer and a protester praying together. And it touched me. And there are so many protests going on in the world right now. I'm not going to try and get too far into this because I know it's a touchy subject, but there are so many protests going on in the world right now. Some of them, or most of them, I should say, are so positive and hopefully leaving a mark. And the fact that this picture arose and people found it is so uplifting because it's such a powerful picture. So that is that. And the second story I want to talk about. So yesterday I was on Facebook and I saw this really touching picture of a dad and a daughter, and they were African American. And the dad was talking about, and I quote, how he was trying to support another Black-owned business for lunch today. And it was so funny because he was this really tall dude who was sitting in this table and chairs that's totally meant for like little kids when you're little and you sit at the table and chairs in color or you do something. And he had balloons tied to the back of his chair, and it was such a funny picture. But in the picture, he's like got this really grumpy face on, and his daughter's at the kitchen cooking. And it's so funny. The toy kitchen, I might add. And he talks about how in the beginning the service was great, but then Paw Patrol came on and he waited 45 minutes for his food. So the service all in all could have been a little bit better. Mind you, he's talking about his daughter's restaurant. It was such an adorable little picture, and it really got me chuckling. So if you want to go look that up, I saw it on Facebook, but the link, it took me to, like, when I clicked on the link, it took me to the Today Show. That's what it was. So it's such a lighthearted picture to be looking at, and with all that's going on in the world today. So I highly recommend that you go find that story. The last example I want to talk about is one that kind of hits home for me, because for a number of different reasons, and you'll see in a minute. So a couple weeks ago was a day dedicated to celebrating nurses and how amazing and important they are. And amazing is honestly an understatement to describe what nurses do every day, because they do so much good for our society and our world. I think, honestly, every day should be a day celebrated for nurses, because they put themselves at risk every day, and there's just so much craziness going on in the world, and somehow they still manage to go to work and get their stuff done. And that doesn't just go for nurses, but everyone who works on the front line. But I'm just talking about nurses more specifically because a couple weeks ago we celebrated National Nurses Day, and there are no words to describe how uplifting. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, doctors leave an impact, yes, but I'm going to be honest, I remember most of my nurses that I've had in my life, their names. Like, for example, I could tell you about the nurse that I had when I had IVIG, and she was kind of funny, and her name was Carol. And I could tell you about the nurse that I had when I had surgery the second time. She was pretty awesome. Her name was Maggie. It's just, nurses leave a certain impact because doctors are great, yes, but doctors aren't the ones who are taking your vitals every couple hours, or aren't the ones who are helping you put in your IV. Nurses are, and there's I feel like there's such an underappreciation for all that they do in our world and our society. So shout out to all the nurses in my life. I have a lot of them, but the ones I want to talk about more specifically are my parents. Although it can be challenging at times to have nurses as your parents, my life would be drastically different if they weren't my parents and they weren't nurses. But they are always there to offer support and help when I need it 100% of the time. And I want to also, again, give a shout out to them, because without their love and support, I would not be where I am today. So thank you, Mom and Dad. Again, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thanks for tuning in. Mwah.
It's my lucky day.